Alright, my presentation is on the history of the Camaro. So some background information is the Camaro was unveiled in 1966 in Detroit, Michigan, and it was General Motors' response to the success of the Ford Mustang and the pony car movement, and the first production year was 1967. So the first generation was 67 through 69. In 1968, the Z28 model was introduced. That's the performance package. It comes with nicer suspension, better intake, and some better parts. In 1969, they redesigned it to be lower and give it more of an aggressive look. The second generation started in 1970 and ended in 1981. 1970, they totally redesigned the body. That red one that's on the screen, that's a 1970 Camaro. In 1971, they actually reduced the power of the engine from 360 horsepower down to 330, and the big block option went away in 1972. 1975 started the emissions movement, and that's when they introduced the catalytic converter to be installed on the stock exhaust, and that would monitor the emissions and what emissions were produced by the vehicle. So they stopped offering the convertible for this generation, but in 1978 they introduced T-tops, which is like a target top where the roof is removed, but it has a bar in the middle of it. And 1981 was the last year of the second generation. But they started to introduce the computer control system, adding more electronics to the car, including power locks and power windows, but not a lot of those Camaros had that. In 1982 was the start of the third generation. It started the fuel injection. It was the first year to have fuel injection, and after that all the Camaros would have fuel injection. They swapped out the 4-speed manual transmissions for the 5-speed. And in 1985, the IROC model became the performance model instead of the Z28. 1992 is the final year where they offered a 25th anniversary package, which came with the 6-speed manual transmission. In 1993, was the start of the fourth generation of the Camaro. In 94, they introduced the first electronically controlled transmission, the 4L60E. The old transmission was the 4L60, that E just means electronically controlled. And they would use that transmission across different platforms. In 2002 was the 35th anniversary of the Camaro, and the final year of the fourth generation, they came out with some special packages for that generation in 2002. In 2008 was the start of the fifth generation. 2010 was when they first introduced the Indianapolis Pace Car edition of the Camaro. And 2013 is when they made the MyLink system standard on every Camaro. And that generation ended in 2015. The sixth generation started in 2016 and is the current generation we have today. 2017 was the 50th anniversary that they released special trim packages in orange and gray. And then in 2020 they would introduce the LT1 V8 platform that they still use on today's Camaros. And here are my sources. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I hope you learned a lot.